There's been a lot happening in Chicago with federal troops, Border Patrol, ICE agents. It was the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Black Hawk helicopters flew over this apartment building, and agents rappelled down on ropes like they're going into Osama bin Laden's compound.
Yeah, knocking down the doors.
Breaking windows, and they rounded up everybody. And they claim they did this because they had information that some of the residents of this apartment building were members of the Venezuelan gang. And reports have come out that after rounding everyone up, including children, they separated Black residents and brown residents.
That's right.
Assuming the Black residents were probably U.S. citizens and the brown ones were not.
Right.
But we now have heard from attorneys that said, no, a number of those who were arrested were U.S. citizens, and they were arrested without warrants.
Yeah.
Completely outside the law.
Yeah, that's right. So there's so much that's deeply troubling about this. The way that children were treated.
Traumatized.
Zip-tied their hands together, in the middle of the night, separated from families. But the way that Black citizens were also detained even after being able to show that I am a citizen. The follow-up question then for these citizens was, well, do you have any outstanding warrants? Well, this is far beyond the mandate, right, of immigration enforcement, and yet this is the experience of some of the residents of our city, some of our neighbors.
From Homeland Security, this is a quote. Last month, ICE and CBD officers have arrested more than 1,000 illegal aliens. Okay. Now, this is where the language gets interesting. Including the worst of the worst, pedophiles, child abusers, kidnappers, gang members, and armed robbers. We have also arrested multiple members of the gang Tren de Aragua and illegal aliens with criminal histories. Okay. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt here and say this statement is factually true. What's really important is they've admitted that they've arrested more than 1,000 people, including, and then they go on with all these, violent criminals.
That's right.
But they're not denying that a lot of the people they've arrested are not violent criminals.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the loophole here. I mean, I don't think too many Americans would be upset if the ones they were arresting were pedophiles and murderers and gang members and drug dealers.
Yep.
But they're not proving that in advance and issuing warrants.
That's right.
They're just rounding up everybody. A lot of the people that are being swept up in these raids, no doubt there are some who are dangerous criminals, but the vast majority are not. They may well be undocumented, which is a civil violation. It's not a criminal violation, but they're being treated like hardened criminals.
Our state government has said we actually would like to partner with the federal government in identifying, some of these more criminal elements that really are an issue and a problem.
Right.
We'd like to partner with the federal government on that. That's not what's being offered. What's being offered is this much more dragnet approach that catches anybody and everybody, including people who may be citizens.
And yet a lot of Americans are like, who cares?
It's not happening in my neighborhood. It's not happening in my community. My church hasn't been impacted. I was on a call this morning, and a pastor from a immigrant congregation in our city said that while they normally have about 300 folks in worship, it's down to 30. It's not that those 270 have been deported. They're just afraid.
Right.
Whether they are have legal status or not, they recognize that status doesn't protect them right now from being swept up. Maybe you don't get deported, but maybe you get detained for a while. Maybe you get sent down to Louisiana. You know what I mean? That fear is very legitimate. And to me, it feels intentional. We have communicated very clearly the repercussions of what's happening right now. There is no denying the impact on congregations, on families, on economies in our city, neighborhoods whose economies are being rocked by this. There's data for all of this, and yet it continues. And so it's hard not to think that this kind of fear and intimidation is not part of the point. And I think as Christians in particular, we have something to say about that. Like we do have a faith that has a lot to say about those who would provoke fear and how we are to respond, even if we're not the targets of that fear. How when our Christian sisters and brothers are being targeted, are being made objects of derision in this way, we do have an obligation, whether it's happening in our community or not, to find some way to stand in loving solidarity with those who are experiencing this. I think one real practical thing, certainly that a Christian leader could do, but really anybody, would be to start fostering a friendship, a relationship with somebody in your community whose experience of this moment is just very, very different than yours. Now, I'm speaking particularly to those of us who are more insulated from what's happening right now. If we're not able to walk in someone's shoes who feels afraid right now, if we're not able to imagine what it feels like to have somebody knock your door down, right? Or to worry about driving somewhere as a citizen and not having your driver's license, your birth certificate, and your passport on hand just in case, right? Then we're gonna have a hard time actually coming alongside those who are afraid right now. But if we can start fostering some of those friendships and relationships, again, beyond any kind of partisan divide, there is an allegiance to Jesus that holds us together that requires something of us right now, requires us to literally, what does Jesus say? Greater love has nobody than this, than that you lay down your life for a friend. I really think that's the moment we're in. Like, are we willing to literally lay down my life for my friend in Jesus? Well, if all my friends in Jesus look just like me and are having the same experience as me, that's not a particularly sacrificial commandment. But once your friends in Jesus are the vulnerable, are the marginalized, are those who are being chased, harassed, intimidated, you recognize, oh, this might mean actually laying some stuff down. That's the cost of discipleship. It's incredibly challenging. It's frightening to consider. And I want to be a witness to say it's actually a really good way to live. It's actually a way better, more robust experience of our Christian faith to have those kinds of relationships, which allow for that kind of sacrificial solidarity. Wells of joy and hope open up in those kinds of relationships that just aren't available when we're conforming to the kind of siloed, segregated patterns of our American society. Ours is a multiracial congregation. And so one of the things that I'm saying to our white people right now is we are the least likely to be racially profiled right now. The Supreme Court has given federal agents license to racially profile. They didn't say why they made that decision, but they did grant that license. That means something to the Black and brown people in our church, to the Asian Americans in our church. That means something about their own vulnerability right now. And so I think for those in my congregation who are white, we are probably the ones who need to be a little bit more public right now. We probably need to be the ones who find ways to be peaceful presences in some of these more volatile situations. Beyond that, there's all kinds of ways to love our neighbors. I was texting with a guy yesterday who right now doesn't feel safe leaving his home. Okay, do you need groceries?
Yeah.
What do you need right now, right? There's acts of mercy and charity that just are the love of Christ right now, the cup of cold water that our neighbors desperately need right now. There's people who feel so lonely, so isolated. So I don't think there's any shortage of really creative ways for Christians to be involved right now. I think where I'd want to push is to say, recognize the signs of the times. These are not ordinary days. And if we're just going about the business of church as we normally do, I don't know what we're doing right now. Like that blows my mind a little bit, is the way that congregations could still gather and just go through the motions, not have a word to speak in this moment.
Hey, if you like this video, like and subscribe so that you can get more Holy Post content and others can find it as well.